I mean, if you're gonna find somebody on this campus who is going to find something, Jacob K's an English major, so he might be able to get away with something. He might have some like literary trick that he can throw past me, but most of you can't. I mean, I look at papers. Why do I get in this level of detail? Well, you've got two choices. How would you like me to edit you? Whether I like your story, whether I like your sources, or whether your paper conforms to clarity, does it conform to proper grammar style, do you cite things properly? You've got two ways to be graded. Whether I like you or not, which is bias, or whether you're following proper structure. This person's not a bad person. It's a great paper. He wants to turn it into a sermon. It'll be a great sermon. It'll be a big hit. It works in storytelling. It works in the Bible, in the outside story. It works in a personal story, his own impact. It works in an article from the reading, from the Columbo book. It's great. It needs lots of flaws. He can clearly write an awesome sermon. Now you got to write a college paper with the same material. Do you understand how this works? So remember, I tested into Slytherin. I'm that evil potions master from the Harry Potter things. I mean, who's just like really tough on here. I do it not because I don't like you. I do it because I want you to get something good out of it. When you graduate from college, people expect that you can write at the level I'm going to grade you at. How do I know? I've worked business, I've worked government, I've worked politics, I've worked at the National High Magnet Lab, so if you're a science major, I know that too. I've done all these things. I was actually hired to help scientists write clearly. That was my job. I know journalism, I know all this stuff. So, if you're like, and I've had people before in American experience go, well, I'm not an English major. You don't have to be an English major to write a good paper. I mean, an English paper is going to write a really cool paper, on English major stuff, right? You can probably write a lot of other papers too, right? But the standard is you have to be able to write well. That's not just only English majors have to be held to a standard. Everybody has to be held to a standard, whether you like it or not. So I'm letting you know what it's like out there, and you see if you can beat me on that. This is why I required your paper to be done today, because I need you to be done with it, look it on over, and realize that I'm gonna go after it. I'm gonna look for anything that would hurt you in the real world. Does that make sense? Giving you one last chance to look at it. Don't read it like, oh yeah, I did a great job and stuff like that. Look at it with a critical eye. Catch them. In every column, I make 3 boneheaded errors. Columns are about a page and a half. Seriously, my own mistakes. I catch these when I read them out loud. If you read them out loud, then slowly I'll be like, oh, that sounded really awkward, or, ooh, I changed a word, that changed the subject-verb agreement. Yeah, nobody walks on water. Everybody makes mistakes. So, that's the standard. Have it done today, that means shoot me an email saying that it's in. You can show me the paper as proof or evidence that you've turned in the paper. 1 or 2 people turned it in. 1 person turned it in on Tuesday. So that's good. This gives me time to, I won't be able to go through it in detail like I did for this one person, although I asked him if I could have permission to borrow his paper because it's a cool paper, but it has too many things that need to be corrected. So, just real world, you're paying a lot of money for this. So, I'm not going to give you, oh look, 1 or 2 things, woo, it's awkward. It doesn't take as long to grade that. But it's not doing my job. So, and if you write well, by the way, I'll be tough on you, but if you write well, you'll be way ahead of your peer group. Not only non-college graduates, but college graduates who go to schools where you don't assign papers. That's right, when I taught at Florida State, when I had a class of 300 some odd people, where I was a teaching assistant, I was so stupid this one time. I assigned everyone to write a paper. Do you know what it's like to grade 1,000 pages worth? You can't catch everything anyway. Large state schools, that is your competition. They have multiple choice tests, and they don't have a lot of papers. If you're lucky, you get in some upper division class where you might write a 3-page paper. That's your competition. You're going to write more than that, so get something out of it. It's your, as they say in economics terms, it's your comparative advantage. Even if you're like, I'm not an English major, I'm a biology major. Great, you're a biology major who could write well. I'm a theater major. Yeah, you're a theater major who can write well. I'm exercise science. Great, people can understand you. You can do written communication. That's your comparative advantage. When you're competing with someone, when you're putting together your application. Every assignment that you do at this college, every writing assignment should go into a portfolio as evidence of something you can do. Because some of your competitors who aren't going to college, they're out there in the real world. They're doing stuff. That's, you know, that's their advantage. Show them that you weren't just taking tests and having fun. I mean, hopefully you're having fun, but, you know, show something where you've got this saying, yeah, I wasn't just playing around. I was working.
Are we turning in our rough draft today to show you that we have it done, or are we like a final copy?
No, email, well, if it's final copy, I mean, it's final copy. Now that you got your final copy, now look it over to make sure it's a final copy.
Okay, so we'll turn it in again?
Yeah, don't turn in a bad draft. I mean, turn a draft that you think, this is the best thing I've got. Now it's time to go over to the writing center today. If you do give it to a friend, you follow the same rules. You follow the same rules as the writing center. Don't go through and correct somebody's paper. I mean, that's not right. You're not helping that person. Show them an example or two. Show them an example or two of like, okay, you know, you've got some capitalization problems. Here's one example. That's the writing center, what they do. Or, I really don't understand what this paragraph means. You've got to rephrase it. Or, did you see Dr. Turris's sample where he cited stuff in text? He got a cite in text. Or, you know, 20% of our grade is the works cited page. You don't have that. The highest grade you can get is an 80. Whatever. Do you understand? My goal that I'm saying that you have your draft done today is you email me. You show me you've been working on this. Because if I didn't say turn it in today, turn in a draft, people would wait until Sunday night to write it, right? I want you in the habit of writing stuff long before it's due, getting it in, evidence of it, and then editing your own work, working with someone else. So swap your papers, but don't redo the other person's paper. Don't tell them, write it this way so I'll understand it. Say, I really don't understand this paragraph. How the heck did you work in Mike Rose, I want to be average? Not everyone read this. You've got to explain what this piece is about. Or you look over somebody else's and say, you just said critical thinking, but you didn't explain it. Remember Dr. Turris said, explain it, so a smart person not taking this course can understand it. It's in Rereading America book, a good definition. Why are you going to dictionary.com? This is college. Cite it from a more legitimate source. Make sense? So do that when you're exchanging papers with each other. But definitely go to the writing center because that's the gold standard on campus. I don't want them sitting around like not earning anything. Make them earn their money. Any questions? Okay. And if you're helping out somebody, you know, just remember, you know, just like look it over and make a couple suggestions, but don't tell them, don't write the paper for them. That's the only difference, right? Sure, go ahead.
So since we're relating this to class, can we use I or my, like those kind of words, or is it still?
Oh, you can use I and me, you're fine. Okay. I was saying if you're trying to persuade somebody of something, you know, it makes it less of an opinion. It's more of this is you know, broader group of people appeal to this. But no, did I say you couldn't say I, me, or mine?
No.
Okay, cool. Then you can't. I try not to, unless I'm injecting myself, but that's what I do, if I'm trying to persuade somebody of something. But since it's storytelling, and I don't mind if you inject yourself in the paper, that'd be pretty cool. Sound good? And I realize this, I don't know, is this something you've all done before, or is this something new to you? I said, is this something you've done before for other classes, or is this something new for you?
I think usually it's, like we don't, like if we incorporate what's going on in class without doing it. Does that make sense?
Oh.
We write about what we've done in class.
Okay. That's something you all can do. I'm definitely confident in that. Yeah, I was working for a U.S. senator when I was in graduate school, and all the staff members for the senator were trying to do. It's almost like a NFL draft day. They were trying to pick up like who they wanted. And the person who got the first pick, the senior most person, pointed at me and said, okay, I want this guy. And I said, and I told her afterwards, I said, thanks, because I got the coolest work. I got the coolest writing assignments because she was the office manager. And I was like, why'd you pick me? She goes, well, you're in graduate school, you know how to write. The point was there were a lot of college students they hadn't finished. The thinking was college students don't always know how to write. So what you need to do is you need to be able to demonstrate evidence of writing ability. Just having a college degree alone won't do it. Because part of the myth is that people aren't getting a good education. And you'll show them different. That's why I want all of you, I mean, I can't grade you on this, but that's why I want all of you to, that's why I want all of you to, so I want all of you to save your work, like after it's been edited, after we've worked on it, I want you to save your papers. I want you to save your papers as part of your writing portfolio, as evidence. So when I mark it up, when I say you need to do all these things, there are two types of students. One type just gets the grade, and then that's it. End of story. Okay, I got this grade, I'm doing this for the grade. Are you doing it for a grade, or are you doing it to help your career? If you're thinking about your career, I mean, you'll get your grade sometime next week. You got two choices. File it away, I don't need to do any more. My responsibilities are done, or look over the things, correct it, and put it in a portfolio. I built a huge, huge portfolio when I was a college student. I can even show it to you. Super thick binders. Huge. Boy, did those help in getting jobs during a recession. It was evidence of stuff that I could do. I saved all the write-up stuff that I could. It was really cool back then to just take out a binder and just boom, here's evidence of what I can do. Usually just the visual alone did it. They didn't even need to read it. Just having a portfolio meant it. You don't have to necessarily do that. You have these things. Flash drives. You can save a lot of work that you've done as a college student. But have a portfolio, whether it's hard printout or whether it's on a flash drive. This is evidence of what you can do. And yeah, you're expected to do a lot of oral and written communication in the real world. I can say it's from several different businesses, different government agencies, different politicians, different journalism outlets. Yeah, it's, your paper's got to speak for you when you can't be there. Yeah, it's too late. You can't go in and say, oh, well, here's what I really meant. No, it's on its own. It's like your kid setting out to the real world. It's got to be able to fend for itself. So, send me something to show me, and I'll make a little mark to say who emailed me a rough draft. Get it fixed over the weekend. Load it up on Monday. Sound fair?
Okay, already loaded it up.
If you've already loaded it up, why don't you take it down and take another look at it or two? Sound good? If you've already loaded up, that's fine. Take it down, put up a new one. Sound good?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, good. So what I'll do is at the end of the day, I'll just move it down and put it back up. But I'll be marking who's got one in. All right. I don't think we got all the way through Revolution. I think we got about here. Were we about here for Spy Network?
His contact, Abraham Woodall, picks up the message and buries it at a secret drop. Another agent, Anne Smith-Strong, then uses her laundry as a secret code.
Did y'all know the Underground Railroad did this?
Picks up the message.
People used quilts and laundry to give signals for how slaves could escape on their way to the north and Canada.
Washington responds by moving troops towards New York, threatening the city and forcing the British fleet to stay put in New York.
He waited until, after Valley Forge, he waited until everything was ready before
October
striking.
1781.
So we
6
had-
years into a war,
We had Navy, we had training, we had information.
The American Revolution comes to a head at Yorktown, Virginia.
But he learned from his mistakes because he went into battle before they were ready, which is why Battle of Long Island is one of our 10 worst defeats in U.S. history.
Fortified city, Plum Martin, now a sergeant, waits with 8,000 other rebel soldiers for the signal to attack. Washington's army has reinvented itself. With sharpshooters, with training, discipline, and new weapons. And with a spy network that has saved the French fleet, giving the rebels dominance at sea. What remains of the British Army is under siege in Yorktown.
We also use geography to our advantage.
City, redcoats wait for reinforcements. But back in Britain, the war is unpopular and costing far too much money.
This is a case of hanging on in the face of the British actions long enough to where the British literally would grow weary of this and realize that it was endless.
This is Washington's chance to end the war with one decisive blow.
He committed to this idea of being able to stand on your own. See, America is a dream, and the only way to go get that dream is to show up and bring your very best to that moment, and not stop until you bring that dream into existence.
Plum Martin is to be one of the first over the top.
This is featured at the Fort Benning National Infantry Museum. By the way, the first thing you do when you go on in for the last 100, what do they call it, like the last 100 yards? The British were on a peninsula, hoping they were exhausted, they needed supplies, they needed reinforcements. But we used geography to our advantage and cut off the peninsula. The French Navy cut them off from the ocean in Chesapeake Bay, so pretty much put the entire British Southern Army, half the British forces in America, in a big trap.
Behind Yorktown's defenses, 9,000 battle-hardened British troops are waiting.
We also had massive numbers of French
They're
reinforcements. They
protected
doubled
by a series
Washington's
of outlying
forces.
cannon forts called redoubts. By October 14, just 2 remain. If they're captured, their guns turned on Yorktown, the British will be forced to surrender.
Because if we had their little mini forts, we could just lob shells into the British and kill them all. And they couldn't do anything about it. Do you know who led the attack, Megan? Who led the attack? The guy from the musical vein. Does that come out in the musical?
Yeah, it does. All of this does.
Do you know how old he was?
He was young.
32 when
The
he led
rebels
this
raced
assault.
100 yards as the British lines under fire and a hail of hand grenades.
What will you do when you're 32?
A force of 400 breaks through and storms the British fort.
I picked on Megan because she did a paper about him.
Fighting in close combat with bayonets, they beat the redcoats back.
By the way, when Hessians attacked, they were shock troops. When they went in with bayonets, Americans surrendered during one particular nighttime attack. And that's when we found out Hessians don't take prisoners.
Immediately after fighting in season, I went out to see what had become of my wounded friend. He was dead.
but they breached Yorktown's defences. 2 days later, the British surrender and begin negotiations for peace. After 6 long years of struggle, the rebels have achieved the impossible.
Anyone know the date? October 19th.
The United States is the only country to win independence from the British in war. On April 30th, 1789, Washington is inaugurated first President of the United States of America under the new Constitution. But liberty comes at a price. Over 25,000 men have lost their lives in the battle for independence. But a new nation is born.
We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, and they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights. And among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Okay. Monday we'll go over, after we finish Westward, we'll go over the piece on Jefferson. So the rest of you have time to read it. I know some of you have already started on that. So we'll begin discussion about that. I'm working in Westward. We'll do the other, we'll talk about Jefferson, notes on the state of Virginia. In addition to fixing up your paper this weekend, I also want you to, to read over that piece, because we'll have a rather touchy discussion.
Is that piece on Connect?
Which one? Jefferson? No, it's in the book.
Oh,
Reading
okay.
America. Or it should be. If it's not, let me know.
Are we supposed to have already submitted the paper?
Oh yeah, email it to me today, so I can tell you I've already been working on it. So the actual due date is Monday, but today you turn in evidence that you've actually written a draft. Does that make sense for everybody?
Hmm.
Okay. And if you came in late, let me know, because I need to talk to you.
The United States is pushing west into uncharted territory and danger. As they take the wilderness, the pioneers face incredible hardship. But their battles will build the new American nation.
Or if you're a younger, if
It
they're about
strikes
1,000 years ago.
Appalachian mountains with the force of 100,000 atomic bombs. The 5-mile crater it leaves behind creates the Cumberland Gap, which becomes a gateway to the west.
I think Americans have always been pioneers.
For a nation of adventurers and explorers, we've always moving forward, and we're always dealing with problems, not ignoring them.
Now that one hit the Yucatan in Mexico. And a smaller one hit the Great Plains.
Land west of the Cumberland Gap has been claimed and divided by Britain, France, and Spain,
There's a huge
as well
meteor
as
crater in
hundreds of Native
Arizona.
American
And
tribes.
the actual size of the meteor is only about the size of his desk that they found at the bottom. Impressive, huh? Hell of a bomb blast.
But the strongest claim to this fertile land belongs to whoever conquers it.
Cumberland Gap's, anybody know where it is?
Riches too.
I think it's
Thousands of
around
tons
Kentucky.
of gold and silver.
I live on Cumberland Drive.
This land is also brutal wilderness. March 1775, explorer and frontiersman Daniel Boone pushes west. Boone and his 30 men slashed through the Cumberland Gap on a mission to settle new lands.
Before us lay the finest body of land in the world, with which little exertion we can call our own. One day, thousands will desire this land, and we will be rich.
Boone's push into the west becomes a defining act for the new nation. The British king has outlawed any western expansion. Illegal settlers are rounded up and punished.
And that's because of treaties with the Iroquois Confederacy, Mohawk tribes, Delaware, Shawnees, Miami.
First great action hero for America. America wanted to see itself that way, I think. They wanted to see themselves.
So that was one of the major differences we also have with the English is, you know, Boston, New York were getting crowded. People wanted to push westward, but they were not allowed to because of treaties with the Native Americans.
Boone and his men take no supplies. They survive from the land, using bear grease as insect repellent and wasp larvae as food. Boone records in his journal,
We're exposed daily to peril and death among savages and wild beasts, but nature satisfies all we need. Few experience the happiness we feel here in the howling wilderness.
but for the Shawnee, this isn't wilderness, it's home. And they will defend it from intruders.
These areas that seem like wilderness to the Americans, more wilderness to these American Indian people, it was just their lands.
Daniel Boone and the Shawnee have a history. Only the year before, they kidnapped his eldest son, James, and tortured him to death. On the 25th of March, 1775, Boone crosses into Shawnee territory. Ambushed, Boone retreats. Two of his companions are scalped and slaughtered. But Boone pushes on further west.
Well, I think more than anything, the American character is perseverance. They persevered, they fought, it wasn't easy against great odds, but they have persevered.
Boone's friend and companion, Felix Walker, writes,
He conducted the company through the wilderness with such bravery. Indeed, he appeared void of fear, with too little caution for the enterprise.
many of Boone's followers died settling Kentucky. A but within 20 years, 200,000 people poured through the Cumberland Gap.
We were a burgeoning society. Suddenly we realized, whoa, the owner's manual says, this is all ours. Keep going west.
In 1803, the new nation expands westward, one of the biggest property deals in history. U.S. President Thomas Jefferson buys the vast Louisiana territory from Napoleon of France. 500 million acres at 3 cents an acre.
Anybody know why Napoleon sold it to us?
Doubles the size of the United States.
It was all land that the French won by supporting us in the Revolutionary War. Napoleon wanted it to beat the British and the Russians. He didn't need it near as much. We wanted it more than they did. Jefferson actually went over to the French to try and buy New Orleans. He didn't realize he was going to get the whole French territory.
We want to climb it. We hold those venturers of the past in great admiration.
In May 1804, a presidential aide and a junior army officer set out on an epic expedition. Meriwether Lewis and William Clark planned to be the first to cross and map the continent. Their greatest challenge, crossing the vast Rocky Mountains.
I mean, all of this stuff like exploring, settling, fighting, all these things are designed to say this is part of the American character that separates them from Europeans, even if they're, for most whites, there is a difference. Or when people were slaves who were brought over to Africa, or from Africa to the United States, that when you came to America, you became a different type of person.
Next, they eat their horses.
Have you been to the IMAX at Fort Benning?
Is given up as dead.
They have a movie, 1 hour movie about the Lewis and Clark expedition. It's IMAX, so it's huge.
But they survive, and they owe their lives to a 16-year-old Native American girl. Sacagawea of the Shoshone Nation guides them, finds wild food, saves their precious million-word journals from an overturned canoe. In December 1805, William Clark notes in his journal, "Ocean in view."
Oh, the joy.
It was a multiracial group too. There were African Americans who were on this trip.
To reach the Pacific Ocean.
You know, there were Indians, and there were whites. I mean, it took a diverse united front to get there. I mean, I know in the history books it says Lewis and Clark, but it was a broader group than that.
Transforming science and agriculture.
Did y'all know
And
that?
triggering a new rush into the unknown.
On the expedition to the North Pole, I mean, you had Robert Peary, who was white, and you had Matthew Henson, who was African American. I mean, it's seen as, whether you're white or black, when you're American, you're seen as an adventurer.
Lewis and Clark's expedition through the Rockies has also uncovered a route to the West's most valuable commodity: beaver. Their pelts are traded by Native Americans for guns, knives, salt, and they're a high-fashion luxury for the rich. In Europe, beavers have been hunted to near extinction, but in the Rocky Mountains, they number in the millions.
It's Ben Franklin's fault. He actually wore a beaver skin hat, and it became a big rage in France and England. I think at one point they even called it the
New
Franklin.
iron traps make catching them easier.
We got them around West Point Lake. Did y'all know
Baited
that?
with the beaver's own scent glands, the animals are drawn to their deaths.
I took a nature hike with my kids at the Sierra Club, and we
By
spotted some of their
October
stuff. They're hard to see.
1823, there are 300
smart.
eager trappers roaming the Rockies, hoping to make a fortune. 1 in 5 won't make it out alive. The conditions are so exhausting, trappers need to eat 3 times what we eat today to survive. Jedediah Smith is the most successful hunter in the Rocky Mountains. 24 years old, he walks up to 1,600 kilometers each year, traps 600 pelts in a season, the equivalent of 3 years' average pay back east. A devout Christian, he doesn't drink or smoke. His Bible and his gun are constant companions. He's also astute and works with the Native Americans. The Crows show him ancient shortcuts, set him horses, nurse his sick men back to health.
You had 2 types, ones who would go, who saw any Indians as enemies, and those who would work
Tribes of North
with Indians.
America have adapted to living in every part of the continent, from arid plains to harsh mountain terrain.
Not all the tribes agreed with each other, but some of them aligned themselves with
their
Americans.
knowledge and his skill to open up the West for vast fur trapping profits. But it would almost kill him.
Have they seen Leonardo DiCaprio movie with the bear? I didn't think it was going to be that good. It really was. If like you want to watch a movie, like the movie version of this episode.
Jed Smith's friend, James Kleiman, writes,
The grizzly did not hesitate, springing on the captain, breaking his ribs and cutting his head.
Very far from healthcare.
This gave us a lesson on the character of the grizzly, which we did not forget.
the grizzly bear is the most dangerous wild animal on the frontier. Up to 3 meters tall, they can weigh 450 kilos. In early 1800, 100,000 roamed the Rockies, 50 times more than today.
I grew up in West Texas, so I did all these things. I went to a scout camp once where, due to
Halfway to
drought,
death, Jed Smith's right-hand man,
bears were
James
attacking
Kleiman,
Cub Scouts.
stitches his
The ones who were like
scalp
leaving their
back to
food
his
out,
head.
not putting it in the bag or following directions.
I put in my needle, stitching it through and through,
And we were in the middle of nowhere. So.
laying the lacerated parts together as nice as I could.
There was an amazing sense of confidence as part of that American spirit that doesn't even think about failing.
Jed Smith pushes on. The epitome of American rugged individualism.
It's not just how we see ourselves, it's how others see us.
The trails he forges become settler paths and wagon trails. Today they are roads and an interstate highway.
And we all know Highway 27 was an Indian path, right?
Americans follow in his tracks.
From the Chattahoochee River up, if you drive up Highway 27, it's based on an Indian path.
May 1846. Thousands of men, women and children, riding, walking, pushing. They're heading for a new life 3,000 kilometers away.
It was a land of opportunity. You can make of yourself what you want. You're only held back by your own desires.
Germans, Belgians, French, Catholics, Presbyterians, Mormons. One of the world's great mass migrations begins. Pioneers follow the wagon trail west to Oregon and California.
If you think about it, we use all kinds of explorers.
Like the frontiersmen before them, their journeys become another part of American mythology. Some walk 16 kilometers a day for up to 6 months, going through 10 pairs of boots on the journey. Half are children, 1 in 5 of the women are pregnant. Families sell farms, saving for an average of 5 years to join the exodus, risking everything.
I think if there is one episode that encapsulates the American spirit, I think it is probably the Move West. With those mules and horses, and cross those rivers, and cross over those mountains to the unknown, and say, I'm leaving everything behind. I'm leaving everything that I know behind to reinvent myself.
A wagon and oxen cost minimum $5,000. But it buys a complete life support machine. The wagons carry nearly 500 kilos of supplies and the basics for a new life in the West.
It's not like the Mormons had no choice, they had to go. Their leader was killed in Illinois, and they would have been killed if they had stayed. But for many of them, they were taking a chance. We probably could have been safe back in the city, but not advanced as well. So this is seen as an American idea of risk-taking.
Charge $10 for road tolls and $100 for river crossings in modern money.
Early interstate toll roads. It's kind of like almost modern highways if you drive along them and you see,
Reaching the West.
where people
10
have crashed or
graves
so.
for every 1.5 kilometers.
So some things never change. There are a couple out by where I live on
But
Westbound
one
Highway or
pioneer
Roanoke
story
Highway.
will reveal the most extreme hardships of the journey west. June 1846. A wagon train heads west. Its leader is George Dunn. His wife, Tamsin Donner, is a school teacher. But on the trail, women must turn their hands to anything. The Donner party are halfway across the blistering Wyoming prairie, far away from the nearest doctor with barely any water.
Good. Yes. Okay. I think the women who came across America in the early days must have been made up of the strongest fiber possible.
Remember this when you read de Tocqueville for next week. He talks about differences between genders, Americans and Europeans.
The child's mother and father are Philippine and Ludwig Kessler. They christened their son Louis. The journey is tough, but the going's good. Tamsin Donner writes in a journal,
I could never have believed we could have traveled so far with so little difficulty. Indeed, if we do not experience anything worse, I shall say the trouble is all in getting started.
but as leader of the wagon train, Tamsin's husband, George Donner, is aware there's one final obstacle to their journey. winter, they're impassable. As the Donner Party approaches Utah, George Donner makes a fateful decision, leading a splinter group off from the main party.
We had two choices. There was the long way up to Oregon Trail,
He's read
and then go down, or we could take a shortcut through the Sierra Nevadas, which would take you directly to California.
Weeks of the journey time.
It's like Scooby-Doo. You got the long way and the short way, but you gotta go by the haunted mansion.
We are informed it is a fine level road with plenty of water and grass.
But Donner's information is wrong. In fact, the shortcut adds 160 kilometers to the journey.
Well, that's actually like, going to California. They're talking about the journey like to make it to safety in Oregon. Then you'd have a long way down from Oregon to California. It's still the long way to California.
They're only 50 kilometers
Or a short way to
from
California.
the California
It's the
plain.
long way to safety. Oregon.
But supplies are dangerously low. Traveling through the mountains is taking its toll.
Other people have done this before. But anything that delays you only adds speeds up coming toward winter.
A broken axle forces the Donner Party to stop to make repairs. But that night, 1.5 meters of snow falls. Soon the drifts are nearly 20 meters deep. The Donner Party will be stranded for 5 months. In just 3 weeks, they eat all their food. Then they kill their pack animals. Next, they eat charred bones, twigs, bark, leaves, dirt, and worse.
Did anybody see Heart of the Sea? About whaling? It's a similar outcome. When a ship sinks and all they have are their whale boats in the middle of the Pacific Ocean.
Cannibalism. Christmas, 1846. They eat their first human. Bodies are cut up, flesh labeled so people don't eat their own relatives. Four rescue parties bring out some survivors. The very last finds Philippine's husband, Ludwig, alone. He is surrounded by bones, entrails, and 2-gallon kettle of human blood. George Donner's body is found, skull split open, his brain removed. Tamsin Donner's body is never found. The pass is renamed the Donner Pass, a testament to the hardship of the pioneers push west.
There's a huge statue up there, by the way. It shows you how high the snow got.
Today, it's the Lincoln Highway. But beneath the bones of the Donner Party, Sierra Nevadas conceals a seam of gold, the largest the world has yet seen. Gold fever is about to change the West. 1836, the Battle of the Alamo in Texas. The United States runaway expansion has brought it into conflict with the Mexican Empire.
Ironically, over illegal immigration, that was Mexican territory that illegal immigrants from America kept spilling over, from Georgia, from Kentucky, from
Mexico's
Alabama.
vast territories stretch
Ironic,
from
isn't
Oregon
it?
to Guatemala. But Texas is disputed territory. The Mexican government invited American settlers in, but they quickly flood the territory in overwhelming numbers.
Yeah. They only wanted some in it.
Thousands coming into
They-
Texas, and they were not abiding to the agreements to come in as settlers. And once they outnumber by 1835 Mexicans 10-1 in that area, of course, the Americans are thinking about independence.
At the Alamo, the pioneers make their stand for independence.
It was seen that if we had Americans go to a Central American country, go to the Caribbean, or go out west, they settled there sooner or later, they were going to push for independence.
Attempting to retain control of Texas, a Mexican army storms the makeshift fort. The siege ends in a massacre.
Have you ever seen the movie
186 defenders.
where Billy Bob Thornton plays Davy Crockett? Did y'all ever see that?
At the Alamo, brave men like Davy Crockett become heroes and martyrs. Women and children are spared and sent back home to spread the message, don't come.
Or don't. I actually went to school in San Antonio where the Alamo was. Almost every politician came to town, spoke in front of the Alamo church. What's
By
left
the
of
end
it?
of 1848, war with Mexico brought both Texas and California into the Union. That same year, a new rush westward begins.
Rather than fleeing, most of the Mexican settlers who lived in Texas and in California actually rose up in rebellion with the American immigrants who came in.
Where over millions of years, vast geological forces have created gold. The seed in the Sierra Nevadas is one of the densest on the planet. Carpenter, James Marshall, finds a 3-ounce nugget in the California River.
Kind of like something on Lord of the
He
Rings
wants
thing.
to pay in his hand, but billions of dollars beneath his feet. News of Marshall's discovery spreads to every corner of the world.
Yeah, by the way, I was listening to a story on NPR about Syrian refugees who came to New Jersey and how a Christian community took them in. Everyone's learning how to drive, learn how to speak English, learn how to write, learn how to do everything. This church is helping them out. But what they didn't expect is the Syrian refugees, they heard about the United States, they heard about bears. And so they asked people, like, are there bears? And this is kind of, it's a semi-rural part of New Jersey. I mean, some parts are like Newark, but other parts it's the Garden State. And they're like, oh yeah, there are bears around. They wouldn't leave their house until people had to convince them, like, that, bears wouldn't attack them. They were just terrified of bears. My kids once asked, we got stranded, our ATV went out, the Gator went out of gas. And so son went down to get like extra gases in the middle of the night. And the kids were around there like, my daughter says, what if there are bears up there? What's going to happen? I said, oh, don't worry, there are no bears around here. This is up in Byrd County. And they're like, but what if you're wrong, Dad? And I said, okay, take your younger brother behind the tree and I'll wrestle with the bear. And she cried. She burst out in tears. Like, you don't think I can beat a bear? No. Well, you're probably right. Okay. Anyway, just want to just let you know, I think you're getting today the draft. It's due on of it, but if I didn't have you email the drafts, or I didn't have the draft for this, or it was going to, unless we can start working on it.
Yeah.
So it's designed to get you to it. Get it to the writing center today. If you can't get it to the writing center, you can get it to a friend, but you gotta follow the writing center code if you give it to somebody else. Don't give it to someone else to correct your paper. What you should do is, you should, have somebody look at it, let's say the two of you swap your papers, and you look it over and it's like, okay, you say, all right, you've got problems with capitalization, here's one example, right? But you don't do the paper for them, or here's an incomplete sentence, here's an example of one. Make sense? Well, see, after class, after David College. When, or you can say, I don't understand what this paragraph is, or, hey, did you remember to work in something from the readings that we have, or class material, or you don't even have a works cited page, or did you follow the sample? Did you quote your sources inside? But don't go through and tell them everything to do. Does that make sense? So that's the standard.
Take it off.
The what?
I'll close the bottom and make it.
Well, after you, and I'll download it, so after you're done with it, take it down, put up a new one. Sound fair? Okay, good. You got one for me? Yes, well, don't write the draft, see, like right now, I can already say, like, where's your works cited page? So I can help you with your works cited page. There's none.
My works cited, I have my tabs open my computer.
Now, just do it as you go through, so like every time you work in the source, always do your works cited page along with it.
Along with the source.
Oh, like, yeah, you're like, okay, I'm working in this, all right, boom, put it in here.
Okay.
No, I mean, like, as you're doing the paper, because we'll have honor code cases when I was there, somebody who's like, oh, I forgot to like put in my sources afterwards or something. Don't treat them as separate things, treat them as part of the same thing, okay? Just so you don't have any problems. And not only that, I don't have your works cited page, so I can't see. Well, or so, like, you don't have quotes here, so, I can guess that this might be a quote, but otherwise it would be an honor code violation if you don't say where it came from or so.
Well, in the sentence before it, I had noted.
See, that's right.
This isn't, like, anytime that I would quote something.
But see, you don't. So this is no different from someone who just turns in somebody else's work. Do you understand? So you got to quote, cite. Don't treat them as separate tasks. They're part of the same thing.
Well, I'm saying in this part, I don't think I was quoting anything. When I quoted stuff like from the article,
Oh, okay.
from the Telegraph, I would say.
Because when you do this, this tells me this is a quote. So now I'll have to start researching to see if it came from some other source.
Okay.
You understand? So in other words, yeah. Get a. Do you work in anything from the readings?
Yeah, I worked in a little bit of how we talked about hypothesis and theory.
Okay.
Because I did mine on fear of.
Okay. Work in something about critical thinking so you can cite from the book.
Okay.
All right. Do you work any outside material?
I got some studies that were about fear and how it affects women.
Okay, did you cite them? That's a great idea.
That's where the Telegraph comes in. That's
Okay, article from the okay, that's not a publication, that's like a machine. You understand? So you gotta follow rules. So it's gonna be the Daily Telegraph, you gotta cite it. Did you see my sample?
I saw it, but
Well, you gotta follow it. I wrote that for you, so that you could follow it. So, I don't want to give you a D or an F, I want you to do pretty well on it, so keep these things in mind, okay? I'll write some general things, but you've got a lot of work to do on that. Cite it from wherever, from IMDb, or if you can find another source. You've got to actually cite all the way through, like, who's the author. The Daily Telegraph puts out a publication every day. Which day? Where's the works cited page?
So for every time that I say the Telegraph, I need to make sure I have the date and
Of course.
the text.
Yeah. And are you using the same Telegraph article? It doesn't say who wrote it, so you gotta put in who wrote it.
I've looked for the author. That's what I would normally use if they have the author. I know they put the author's name.
I wouldn't normally do, I would do this for any class. You got it? Yeah, because otherwise it's gonna get very low grade. But I don't want you to do that, so I'm glad I'm telling you this. Can you jot this down before your next class?
Well,
All these suggestions? Yeah, please do. Can you do that? I'll let them know. Send it to you for you.
all right, thank you.
Yeah. Because, no, you can't for any paper.
Well, I wasn't done with it, of course, but
No, I know. I'm just letting you know so that, you know, because if I get something that looks exactly like this, it's
no, I wouldn't turn it in.
good,
but-
good. But yeah, treat a draft like it's the final,
Okay.
like it's the real deal. Okay, sorry, let me get this on.